Imagine a harmless prank turning into a global tragedy. This is the chilling tale of Kaylee, a young woman who thought she was just making a funny video but found herself in the middle of an international incident. Separated from her husband and child, Kaylee was one of many young women lured from the poorer regions of Indonesia to the thriving city of Kuala Lumpur. She found work in the infamous Flamingo Hotel, her days filled with the hustle and bustle of the city's wealthy patrons. One fateful night, as she left the notorious Beach Club Cafe, she was approached by a local taxi driver. He spun a tale of a Japanese client in search of a fresh face for a reality TV show. Flattered and intrigued, Kaylee agreed to meet this mysterious client. The next day, she found herself face-to-face with a man named James, a seemingly charismatic television producer. With his chiseled features and smooth talk, he painted a picture of candid camera-style shows for YouTube. Little did Kaylee know that this man, who claimed to be a Japanese producer, was in fact a North Korean agent named Ri Ji-yu. He offered Kaylee a simple job: approach random men, smear baby lotion on their hands, apologize, and walk away, all while he filmed the antics on his iPhone. The offer seemed harmless and the pay was good, around $100 for each prank. Kaylee, drawn by the promise of easy money, agreed. As the days went by, Kaylee found herself diving deeper into the world of pranks. She was joined by Ashley, another unsuspecting young woman, and the pranks gradually became more audacious. Little did they know that their harmless pranks were about to take a dangerous turn. The duo was invited to an airport for their next prank, a setting far from their usual bustling mall or crowded street. Unbeknownst to them, they were about to become pawns in a dangerous game of political intrigue. And so, Kaylee was unknowingly roped into a dangerous game, a game that would soon thrust her into the global spotlight and change her life forever. James, the so-called TV producer, had a unique proposition for Kaylee. He offered her the chance to star in a reality TV show, a candid camera-style escapade that involved pranking unsuspecting individuals in public places. The unsuspecting Kaylee, lured by the promise of easy money, readily agreed. The pranks were simple yet bizarre. She was to approach 3 random men in a bustling shopping mall, grab their hands and smear baby lotion on them, then quickly apologize and walk away, leaving them in a state of confusion and surprise. All the while, James would capture these moments of bewilderment on his iPhone, laughing at the absurdity of it all. James was more than just a director in this production. He was also Kaylee's mentor, guiding her through the art of the prank. He trained her, molding her into the perfect prankster, one that could execute the prank with precision and charm, leaving their victims more amused than annoyed. For every successful prank she pulled off, Kaylee was rewarded with $100. The plot thickened when James introduced a new character into the mix. Ashley, a vivacious woman in her late 20s, brimming with confidence. Ashley was to join Kaylee in her pranking escapades, doubling the fun and the confusion. James invited them to an airport, the setting for their next prank. He gave them the same prop, the baby lotion, but this time the prank was to be pulled together. They were to smear the lotion on a man's face and then make a quick exit, leaving the man bewildered amidst the hustle and bustle of the airport. Kaylee and Ashley, despite their initial apprehensions, agreed to the prank. They were intrigued by the novelty of the location and the prospect of a larger audience. They practiced their routine, each move choreographed to perfection. They were ready, or so they thought, to pull off their most ambitious prank yet. Little did they know this prank was far from ordinary. At the airport, the stage was set for a prank that would shock the world. Kaylee and Ashley, the unsuspecting pranksters, were given their instructions by the man they knew as James, the TV producer. Their task was simple: approach a man, smear baby oil on his face, and run away. Little did they know their target was a man named Nam, a man with a history of entitlement and arrogance born into the North Korean dictatorship. As the girls approached him, they had no idea of the deadly game they were unknowingly part of. They played their roles perfectly, carrying out their prank with the innocent belief they were making yet another entertaining video for YouTube. They smeared the baby oil on Nam's face and fled the scene, giggling and out of breath, leaving a confused and increasingly uncomfortable Nam behind. Nam, feeling the effects of the oil, began to realize something wasn't right. His face felt strange, his vision blurred, and his breaths came in short gasps. He stumbled towards airport security, trying to explain what had happened. His words were slurred, his movements unsteady. The security officers, alarmed by his condition, rushed him to the hospital, but it was too late. On the way, Nam clutched his face in shock, his eyes wide with terror. He collapsed, his body going limp as the deadly chemical in the baby oil took effect. The man who had grown up in the shadow of a dictatorship, who had been entitled and arrogant, was now a victim of a deadly prank he never saw coming. Meanwhile, Kaylee and Ashley were searching for their producer, oblivious to the chaos they had inadvertently caused. They had no idea that the man they had pranked was now fighting for his life, and that their harmless prank had turned into a deadly game of international intrigue. In the blink of an eye, a harmless prank had turned deadly. The girls had unknowingly played their parts in a lethal plot orchestrated by a North Korean spy, using them as his pawns in a deadly game of revenge and power. As news of Nam's collapse spread, a tragic backstory began to unravel. Unbeknownst to the world, the man who fell victim to a seemingly harmless prank was none other than Nam, half-brother to North Korea's supreme leader. Born into privilege and power, Nam was no stranger to the political tangles of his homeland. Once a contender for the supreme leadership, his fall from grace was as dramatic as it was swift. An ill-timed trip to Disneyland with a fake passport had cost him his birthright, and his half-brother, King Jong-un, ascended to power. Caught in a web of international intrigue, Kaylee and Ashley faced a daunting trial. The world's eyes were on them as they stood accused of a crime they had no knowledge of committing. The trial, a spectacle of international proportions, was a grueling process that spanned over 2 long years. The charges were severe. They had been tricked into assassinating Kim Jong-nam, the half-brother of North Korea's dictator Kim Jong-un. Throughout the trial, the pair maintained their innocence, their defense hinging on the argument that they were unknowing pawns in a deadly political game. They claimed they were only playing a prank, manipulated by a man they knew as James, who was in reality a North Korean agent named Ri Ji-yu. The Indonesian government, deeply concerned for Kaylee, their citizen, became heavily involved in the case. They provided legal support, arguing that Kaylee was simply a young woman exploited by a malevolent regime. The case was a diplomatic minefield, a complex entanglement of international relations, human rights, and a grim political vendetta. Finally, after 2 years of legal battles, the court acquitted them. Their release was met with a mix of relief and disbelief. The ordeal had taken a toll on their lives, but they were free at last. Kaylee returned to Indonesia while Ashley went back to her home country. Their lives had been irrevocably changed, their innocence lost in a deadly game of political intrigue. In the end, a harmless prank turned into a life-altering tragedy, a grim reminder of the lengths to which political vendettas can go. They had been unwitting participants in a plot that cost a man his life and nearly cost them their own. Their story serves as a stark warning of the dangers lurking in the shadows of our interconnected world.